Hello, Emmanuel family. This is Steve Berneking, and welcome to another Wednesday Words. I want to share with you the first four verses of Psalm 137. Psalm 137, verses 1 through 4. Hear these words. Beside the rivers of Babylon, we thought about Jerusalem, and we sat down and cried. We hung our small harps on the willow trees. Our enemies had brought us here as their prisoners. Now they want us to sing and entertain them. They insult us and they shout, "Sing about Zion." Here in a foreign land, how can we sing about the Lord? Now, the context of that psalm is the exile. And we could talk a long time about the political context and the theological context and the historical context of that event we call the exile. It happened as an event around 587 BCE, when the invading armies of Babylon came down into the land of Israel and destroyed everything in their path, including the city of Jerusalem, the temple there, and they removed many of its inhabitants and took them back to Babylon to serve as their prisoners. Yet while they were there, these exiles were encouraged to continue their regular life, even their regular worship of the Lord, the God of Israel. Now, the hope of these exiles, and we read about that hope in some of the Psalms and in some of the prophetic texts. Their hope there in Babylon was that one day in the future, they would return to Jerusalem, rebuild the temple, and continue the worship of the Lord, the God of Israel. Continue that regular worship and system of liturgy and ritual that had been started. That was their hope. Now, 1 year ago, my friends, we were just beginning to realize that something ominous, something unknown was waiting just around the corner. We are now, a year later, entering the second year of this pandemic. Now, I will not draw exact parallels between the situation of the exile and our own, but some of those emotions and struggles ring loud and true. For example, separation from the routines and the faces and sounds that are familiar. The comfort of our sacred space in our church. The hope that one day this will pass. And the awareness that we're all in this together and are doing our best to survive as best we can. Now, as a member of our Emmanuel family, I, like you, so long to be back in our sanctuary, hearing the organ and the choir, standing next to loved ones who help to sustain me, listening to the liturgy and the hymns which gird up my own faith. Yet we, as a vestry, and I, as a senior warden, must balance our own personal needs and wishes and wants with the overall health and safety and vitality of our parish family. We, as a vestry, must weigh the options about regathering and reopening our doors, seeking the best way forward until we can worship together again. Now, we as a vestry will take up this very discussion next week at our monthly meeting. We will begin to consider when to consider opening our doors again, when to consider coming together again to worship face to face. We do not take this decision and responsibility lightly. And I dare say it will not be any time very soon. But we must begin the discussion. Things are changing rapidly with more and more vaccinations. So, over the next week, between now and next Thursday, I'm asking you to pray for us. We will meet Thursday, the 18th, in the evening. I'm asking that you pray for our clarity, our sensitivity, our discernment, our wisdom, as we take up this discussion about reopening and regathering. Would you do that for us? And we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts or ideas or concerns, please pass them on to me or to anyone on the vestry. And as most of you know, for most of my entire career, I have worked with the Bible and in biblical scholarship, in the careful study of the Bible in its original languages and its translation into multiple languages. But now in the next few minutes, I just want to play with the text. I want to play with those verses which I just read, Psalm 137, verses 1 to 4, to adapt them, to localize them to our current situation. So, begging your forgiveness, let me localize the words of that psalm as I leave you these words on Wednesday. Relying on our smartphones and laptops and tablets, we think about Emmanuel Episcopal Church and we sit down and cry. We keep closed our prayer books and hymnals. It's all on the screen anyway. This pandemic has made us prisoners and separated us and locked us out of our church building. Now here we are, still trying to worship and sing, pray together and feel blessed, even though it all feels strange. As we begin the second year of this pandemic, will we ever worship in person there again? Blessings to you on this Wednesday.